Welcome to r/AskReddit by Reddit replay. Serious prostitutes, escorts, strippers, other kinds of sex workers. What was your first day on the job like? Did escorting for about a year. First day was relieving. I was terrified at first because I was given the rundown for what redheads to look out for. There were a lot. But I went on. Most of my clients ended up being older men who just wanted a pretty girl to be seen with and to listen to them. My first day felt more like a therapist than an escort. A bit intimidating, but not really much different. If anything, I had a little better of an idea of what I was doing compared to working at Starbucks. Was a stripper in my late teens. First day I was nervous as duck. Some drunk dude walks up to the stage waving a dollar bill and said, "Slap your ass, I'll give you $1." Oddly enough, that made me somehow more comfortable with the whole thing. I actually enjoyed it and wasn't half bad. Made more money, legally, from 17 to 20 than any other job I had until like 2 years ago. I'm 37 now. Stripped briefly to pay for a semester's worth of tuition and books. On my first day, a lady shouted, "Whip out your pecker." And I couldn't help but to laugh from both nerves and the fact she said pecker. After that, the rest seemed pretty easy. I'm long retired now, but I was 21 at the time and at a loose end, new city and no job, so decided to work at a gentleman's club as a prostitute. I'd done my research and been in for an interview, so I was feeling confident and relaxed. No one else showed up on time, so I was the only girl there on the day shift and sat chatting to the receptionists. My first client was a really good looking English/Sri Lankan guy who was really sweet and equally nervous. We both couldn't believe it was the other's first time until we were both fumbling and laughing trying to put a condom on correctly. I can't remember who else I saw that day, but I do remember getting paid more than I had earned in a week working 2 jobs. I ended up working for around 7 years and really enjoyed it. I was a cam girl for a little bit. First time was with my roommate. She had been doing it, and I knew she was a cam girl. She was making more in one night than I was from babysitting like 4 times a week. It was really awkward at first, but my roommate was a pro and played into it. First time lesbian sort of thing. Those tokens were flying in. Despite it being awkward, it was fun, and we made a lot. So I started my own account, became a cam girl. Former male stripper here. It was awesome. It was comedic, sexy, and fun. Just an absolute party. The crowd had a blast. We quintuple lap danced the bachelorettes. It didn't pay much, but I wasn't really in it for the money. I would totally start another show if I can make it happen. I only had 2 brief uncomfortable moments that night. First, an old woman just grabbed my goodies. Second, another old woman shoved $1 so far between my cheeks that I didn't see it until after the show. Terrifying point: I was 21 years old and had never even stepped foot inside a strip club. I had bought a matching bra and underwear set from Mars Halls along with regular heels. Big mistake. I was told to watch the dancer before me on stage, who of course was gorgeous and clearly knew what she was doing. I went up there and immediately busted my ass because of the normal sized heels. The rest of the time was just spent holding on to the pole for dear life and hoping I wouldn't get fired for being the worst dancer they'd ever witnessed. I wasn't fired and eventually got the hang of everything, but I still cringe at how awful those first initial days were. I knew what it would be like going into it. I'd been working for the agency for a few months as a driver. taking the girls to their appointments, making sure they didn't get robbed or killed. My boss mentioned that he had had some interest from females wanting a male escort. I'd seen Deuce Bigelow. I figured, why the hell not? I was 18, and I cleaned up pretty nice. My first client was a woman in her late 30s. Not a supermodel, but not unattractive at all. She was in town for some auto parts convention and wanted someone to show her around. We wound up sleeping together after. I got my money and left the next morning. I did that until I moved out of state 3 years later. Nerve-wracking. It was professional, but I was 21. It was just me and him, and he had to drive me to another location. But he was super nice and realized real quick I was nervous, so he talked to me the whole way there. He even made jokes while we were switching positions. Fun guy. I would have keep going in that line of work, but a friend caught chlamydia, so I was out. I don't really know if this counts, but I'll share anyway. I'm not a sex worker, although I was paid in the somewhat recent past to work a glory hole. The glory hole was in the staff bathroom of a club not far from my student accommodation. I was told that certain guests were going to be given the option to use the staff bathroom for the glory hole, but not to expect that many people. I was paid £200 each night and I worked 2 weekends in a row. My first night, and pretty much every night, was very scary. My expectation was that a dick would come through the hole, I blow it until he comes and job done. I didn't accept that I was going to have abuse shouted at me, having people look over and under the cubicle and threatened. Every night I complained to the manager and he promised to do something about it, but nothing ever really changed. Like I said, I only worked 2 weekends because it was really scary. Hope this was somewhat relevant. I was 18 and naive. My first client chose me because I was new fresh meat. He was a regular at the club. I was terrified, but went along with it. He made me call him daddy, and every time he pushed into me, I winced from pain. He secretly took the condom off. The manager or girl who gave me an introduction tour never warned me of clients trying to take off condoms. I couldn't tell management about him since he was a regular at the club. They also never told me there was an emergency button to leave the room if I needed to. I only learned 3 years later when a client beat me. That's when I decided it was my last day. Well, I'd like to start by saying, I used to be a male escort at age 15. I looked way older than I was. My first day was a little awkward, but that's because at the time, I was mute. I put up a flyer on Craigslist saying I was a young male mute escort, and that I'd message my rates. At first, I was scared, but not because it was my first time. I'm just a very shy introvert. When I got my first message, it was from a much older woman. She looked to be around 50. I told her my rates and we talked about what was going to happen. She was sweet and caring, but she was one of those people you could just tell was lonely. Later that night, I got dressed, we met up at a hotel she had paid for, and we had sex. After that though, for the rest of the time, we just cuddled, and she talked to me about her day, what's going on in her life, etc. And I just listened. So all in all, my first day wasn't really bad, I just ended up being more shy than I had wanted to be. In my early 20s I did some escorting, gigolo work. I was afraid at what type of women would be willing to pay for sex, and my first client was exactly what I expected. Luckily, she didn't want me to do anything to her and just wanted to give me a blowjob while I fingered her a-hole. She was amazing at it, BTW. My second client that day, however, wow, she was a legit 8 out of 10. She was a taller, 20-pound heavier version of Mariah Menounos. You name it, she wanted to do it. She actually ended up being a repeat customer. Numerous times we would get together, and when all was said and done, was my best and most frequent client. She was extremely wealthy and just loved the idea of paying a man, other than her husband, to do the things we were doing. A bit late to this, but my mother and I kind of ran a trap house, and we always had men stopping by and looking. One day my mother told me that she had a friend that had some great weed and I should meet him. I was 20. We walked over to the friend's house and she led me to the back of the house and introduced us and promptly left. It wasn't until we were smoking and he informed me that he added a bit of crack and I was too nervous to say no. My first client was an 87-year-old who then threw $100 at me that my mother then demanded that I give her $70 for introducing us. Crap definitely could have gone much worse, but it was just a job to me and I ended up making decent money. Male porn talent here. First day filming a scene was scary for me. This was back in 2007 BTW. I was nervous, shaking, just having stage fright, I guess you could call it. Sex is one thing, but videotaped with a crew and following a loose script, it added up to the point that I was honestly almost considering bailing out. My female counterpart in the scene was very nice and helped me get over it. I still chat with her today as friends. She's not in the industry anymore. I put my ad up on a website. He replied. We set up a meeting. He paid for the room and got there first. I was so nervous. I imagined being arrested for prostitution, my picture in the paper. What would my family say? I imagined being choked to death, unable to scream. So many horrible thoughts. I regretted this. I shouldn't be doing this. This is horrible. Karma is going to get me. When he opened the door, he had this welcoming, warm smile. We began making out. And really all that happened after that was 45 minutes of being eaten out, and less than 1 minute of sex at the end, that I wished it would have lasted longer. He offered extra money at the end. I absolutely was expecting to feel degraded and used at the end of this. Instead, I felt like I had just been worshipped. We kept in touch for 3 years afterward. On the drive home, I said to myself, and to think I've been doing this for free all this time. Thanks for watching. If you are new to the channel, subscribe for your daily dose of Reddit. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, and have an awesome day, you wonderful people.